The marble floor of the top floor of Vance Industries glittered under the afternoon sun, streaming through the massive floor-to-ceiling glass windows. Everything here exuded a cold perfection. A minimalist beauty, sharp architectural lines, and an atmosphere of stifling silence. The bustling New York City landscape outside seemed to be nothing more than a static, lifeless backdrop. Elijah Vance, 32, sat behind a colossal glass desk, looking like a king on his throne. His black suit was perfectly tailored, fitting his muscular physique flawlessly. His dark hair was meticulously styled, not a single strand out of place. He was the embodiment of success and power. In just a decade, he had transformed Vance Industries from a small fashion shop in Brooklyn into a multi-billion-dollar empire. He had it all: money, fame, and a vision that the entire fashion world admired. Yet deep inside, an invisible emptiness gnawed at him. Elijah looked at the 10 models standing in a perfect line before him. They were the brightest faces in the industry, each possessing a beauty that any brand would covet. They wore the most expensive clothes, their makeup was flawless, and they held poses that had been practiced to perfection. "Next," Elijah said, his voice deep and as cold as steel. It was a voice devoid of emotion, similar to the one he used in board meetings. The first model, a blonde with sharp blue eyes, confidently stepped forward. She was a rising star just back from Paris Fashion Week. Her high heels clicked loudly and echoed on the marble floor. "Mr. Vance, I'm Isabella. Thank you for your time. I've been following your company for a long time, and I believe I can be the perfect face for—" Elijah interrupted her with a simple yet powerful lift of his hand. "Thank you, Isabella. You may go." The smile on Isabella's face instantly vanished. She froze for a few seconds, her mouth opening to say something. But Elijah had already shifted his attention to the next person. A bodyguard near the door immediately approached Isabella, and she had no choice but to walk away. Her confidence shattered the sound of her heels, a steady beat on the floor behind her. The second model, a brunette with olive skin, tried a different approach. She smiled warmly and began to talk about her experiences in Milan and Tokyo. Elijah listened for exactly 30 seconds before raising his hand again. Next. A red-haired model with emerald green eyes, who had graced the covers of the most prestigious magazines worldwide, stepped up. Her beauty was a blend of wild and refined. "Mr. Vance, I can bring something fresh to your brand. I have worked with—" Elijah closed his eyes. He remembered the days when he was a young man with a burning passion. He had once dreamed of creating clothes that would give people confidence, things that could tell a story. But now the people standing before him had all become a pre-packaged product, a story already written. "Misha," Elijah said, calling her by name. "I know you. You are the epitome of perfection. But that perfection lacks one important thing." Misha frowned slightly. "What is that, sir? A soul?" Elijah said, his voice suddenly becoming a little softer, before quickly returning to his initial coldness. "Next." Misha was stunned. She was one of the few whose name Elijah remembered. And his refusal, though polite, was more cruel than any blunt remark. By the 8th model, the tension in the room had reached its peak. The atmosphere was heavy, like a storm was about to break. The remaining models began to whisper, wondering what they had done wrong. A few tried to stand taller, determined to be the one to win. The 8th model, a girl with a look of desperation in her eyes, began in a trembling voice. "Mr. Vance, I've been a model for 10 years. I've worked with the best photographers in the world. I can bring experience and professionalism to your brand, something that—" "Thank you for your time." Elijah cut her off. She stood motionless, her carefully prepared script dissolving on her lips. The bodyguard approached, and she walked away with the last of her self-respect. The 9th model didn't even have a chance to introduce herself. Elijah glanced at her and waved his hand. She turned and left without a word, the sound of her designer heels echoing in the silent office. Only one person remained. She was the most beautiful of them all, with sharp features and a sophistication that came from years in the industry. She had observed everything, trying to figure out what Elijah Vance truly wanted. "Sir," she began, her voice firm, "I understand you are looking for something special. If you could tell me the qualities you need in a model, maybe I could—" Just then, Elijah's phone vibrated. He glanced at it, then looked up at her with the same cold eyes that had rejected 9 others. "I'm sorry, but this isn't working either." The final model's composure shattered. "But you haven't even given me a chance. You haven't given any of us a chance to prove ourselves." Elijah slowly stood up. His tall figure became more imposing behind the glass desk. "I know what I'm looking for, and it's not here." The girl gripped her handbag, her hands trembling, her face flushed with humiliation. As she reached the door, she turned to look at Elijah one last time. "This is insane. We are the top models in this city. Your company will never find anyone better. We'll see about that." Elijah interrupted, his voice deeper and colder than ever. After she left, a heavy silence filled the office. Catherine, his secretary, a middle-aged woman with 20 years of experience, cautiously approached Elijah's desk. She had never seen him dismiss so many qualified candidates so quickly. "Sir," Catherine said carefully, "perhaps we should schedule another round of auditions. There are still many modeling agencies we haven't contacted." Elijah walked to the window, looking down at the city below. People moved like ants on the sidewalks. Each one had their own story, facing their own struggles. He knew there was something he was looking for out there, even though he couldn't put it into words. "There's no need to contact any more agencies," he finally said. "What I'm looking for won't come from the usual places." Catherine frowned. "Then where should we look, sir?" Before Elijah could answer, a knock came from the door. Catherine looked at her appointment book, a confused expression on her face. "We don't have any other appointments today, sir." The knock came again, this time more insistent. Elijah nodded towards the door. "See who it is." As Catherine walked towards the door, Elijah had a strong feeling that something was about to change. The rejections this morning had left him with a sense of emptiness, as if he was missing something important he couldn't define. The sound of the door opening echoed through the office, followed by a voice completely different from the ones he had heard today. It was a voice that was warm, genuine, and slightly out of breath from rushing. "Sorry I'm late. I had a little trouble finding the right floor. I have your lunch order from Antonio's Deli." Elijah slowly turned around, and his world was turned upside down. Elijah slowly turned around, and the world he knew was instantly turned upside down. Standing at the doorway was not a model, but a woman with the most natural beauty he had ever seen. She wore a simple blue uniform from Antonio's Deli, her curly black hair pulled back into a practical bun. Her healthy olive skin seemed to glow even under the office lights. She wasn't tall, but her figure was gracefully balanced in a way that the baggy uniform couldn't completely hide. But what utterly stunned Elijah wasn't her physical beauty. It was the way she moved. Even while carrying the bags of lunch, she glided across the marble floor with an unconscious grace that no professional model could ever replicate. Her walk was fluid without being stiff, her movements soft and natural. When she smiled at Catherine, her entire face lit up with genuine warmth. "I'm Aurora Hayes from Antonio's," she said, placing the bags on Catherine's desk. "I think there might have been a mix-up. The order was for 10 people, but I don't see—" Her voice trailed off as she realized Elijah was standing and watching her from across the room. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Elijah felt something he had never experienced before, an absolute certainty that he was looking at exactly what he had been searching for all this time. It wasn't flawless beauty. It was a beauty with depth, a beauty that was real. Aurora felt her cheeks flush under his intense gaze. Of course she had heard of Elijah Vance. The whole city knew about the young billionaire who had built a fashion empire. But seeing him in real life was a completely different experience. He was far more handsome than in his photos, with intelligent dark eyes and an aura of power that should have intimidated her. But for some reason it didn't. "This was a model audition," Catherine explained, glancing worriedly between Elijah and Aurora. "But it has already ended." "Oh," Aurora said, looking around the empty room. "Then I missed it." "Well, someone still has to pay for the order." Elijah finally found his voice. "You didn't miss anything important." He slowly walked towards her, as if approaching something precious that might vanish if he moved too quickly. Aurora stood her ground, even though her heart beat faster with each of his steps. "What is your name?" he asked when he was close enough to see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "Aurora Hayes, sir. I work for Antonio's Deli. It's just a part-time job while I'm looking for other things." "Other things?" Aurora hesitated. She didn't usually share personal details with customers, but there was something about Elijah Vance that made her want to be honest. "I used to study fashion design in community college, but I had to drop out when my daughter was born. I'm working 3 jobs to make ends meet. Delivery, house cleaning, and weekends at a retail store." Elijah silently took in the information, his mind working quickly. A fashion design student with the poise of a queen who had to work 3 jobs to support her child. The determination in her voice when she mentioned her daughter told him everything he needed to know about her character. "How old is your daughter?" he asked. 4 years old. Her name is Lily. She's in daycare, but I have to pick her up before 6 p.m., or I'll be charged for overtime." Elijah glanced at his watch. It was 3:30. "Catherine, could you handle the payment for the order?" he asked, his eyes never leaving Aurora. "Yes, sir." Aurora began to gather the empty bags, preparing to leave. But Elijah stepped closer. "Wait, I have a question for you." "About the food order?" "No, about you." Aurora's hands paused on the bags. "Sir?" Elijah had built his business empire by trusting his instincts, by recognizing an opportunity when it appeared in unexpected forms. Every instinct he had told him that this woman was exactly what he had been searching for. "Have you ever thought about modeling?" Aurora blinked in surprise. "Modeling me? You have something that all the women here this morning didn't." "What's that? Authenticity?" The word hung in the air between them. Aurora looked down at her uniform, acutely aware of how out of place she looked in this luxurious office. "Mr. Vance, I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I'm not a model. I'm just trying to pay the bills and take care of my little girl." Elijah smiled for the first time all day, and the smile completely changed his face. "That's exactly why you're perfect." He walked back to his desk, took out a business card, wrote a few lines on the back, and handed it to her. "This is my personal number. I want to offer you an exclusive modeling contract with Vance Industries. A full-time position, excellent salary, full benefits, and flexible hours so you can take care of your daughter." Aurora stared at the business card in her hand, as if it were written in a foreign language. "I don't understand." "You don't even know who I am." "I know enough. You are beautiful. You are graceful. You are hardworking. And you are authentic. Those are rare qualities in this industry. But I have no experience. I've never been in front of a professional camera. Experience can be learned. What you have cannot." Aurora looked up at him, searching for any sign that this was a joke. But Elijah Vance looked completely serious. "Why me?" she asked softly. Elijah thought. How could he explain that in just 30 seconds of watching her move in his office, she had embodied everything he wanted his brand to represent? How could he tell her that her natural beauty and unconscious grace were exactly what was missing in the fashion world? "Because you don't know how beautiful you are," he finally said. "And that makes you more beautiful than anyone else." Aurora felt her eyes well up. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Her daughter's father had left her when she was pregnant, saying she would never amount to anything. Her family had turned their backs on her when she refused to give up her child. For 4 long years she had worked tirelessly just to survive. I need to think about this," she said, even though her heart was screaming yes. "Of course, take your time. But Aurora, don't think too long. Sometimes the best opportunities come when we least expect them." As Aurora left, Elijah watched her with a smile on his face. Catherine approached with a look of confusion. "Sir, are you sure about this? She has no modeling experience." Elijah turned back to the window, but this time he wasn't looking down at the city. He was seeing future photo shoots, fashion shows, red carpet events, and magazine covers. And in every image he saw the authentic smile of Aurora Hayes. "Experience isn't everything, Catherine," he said. "Sometimes the most important thing is to find something real in a world full of fakes." Elijah stepped closer, each step soft yet decisive. Aurora felt a powerful energy emanating from him, but it wasn't intimidating. It was a quiet and magnetic presence. His gaze was no longer cold, as it had been with the models, but rather filled with curiosity and observation. It made her feel like an open book, and he was reading every single page. I'm sorry," Aurora said, her voice trembling slightly. "I think I might have bothered you." "Not at all," Elijah replied, his voice much warmer now. "You brought something no one else could bring this morning." Aurora was confused, looking down at her delivery bag. "What was that? The truth?" he said, a faint smile on his lips. "The others came with a pre-written story. You didn't. You were simply yourself." His words touched a deep place in Aurora's heart. For the past 4 years, she had lived with the feeling that she wasn't good enough, not beautiful enough, not successful enough. She had to constantly brace herself just to survive, to hide the difficulties she was facing. Now, a successful man was telling her that her truth, her struggles, and her hardships were something of value. Elijah looked directly into her eyes. "You said you were looking for other things. What are those, Aurora?" Aurora hesitated. She wasn't sure if she should share, but Elijah's sincere gaze made her open up. "I used to study fashion design at community college. It was my dream. I wanted to create clothes for everyday women, women who don't have a model's perfect figure. But then, my daughter was born. I had to drop out to take care of her. Now I'm just trying to do whatever I can to provide for her." As she spoke, her gaze never wavered. She spoke of hardship without complaining. Elijah saw in her a resilience and an immeasurable love. He saw a woman who had given up her own dream to nurture another person's dream. That was more beautiful than anything he had seen this morning. "And Lily, your daughter, how old is she?" he asked, trying to hide his own emotion. 4 years old. She's my whole world." The smile Aurora gave when she mentioned Lily was the most genuine smile Elijah had ever seen. It was a smile filled with love, pride, and sacrifice. Elijah felt an absolute certainty that this was the person he needed. He had built Vance Industries on the idea of authentic beauty. but he had lost his way. He had been searching for perfection in fabricated molds, while true beauty was standing right in front of him in a worn-out delivery uniform. He walked back to his desk, took a business card from his leather wallet. He didn't hand it to her right away, but took an expensive fountain pen and wrote a few lines on the back. "This is my personal number," he said. "I'd like to offer you an exclusive contract with Vance Industries. A full-time position, an excellent salary, and all the necessary benefits." Aurora was completely stunned. "Sir, I think you're mistaken. I'm not a model. I have no experience. You can't just look at me and make an offer like that." Elijah offered a rare smile, and it completely changed his face. It wasn't a forced social smile, but a truly warm one. "I've watched hundreds of models in this industry, Aurora. They have everything except for one thing: authenticity. I see that in you. That's something money can't buy and experience can't teach." "But Aurora still hesitated, looking down at her uniform. "I look so out of place here." "That's exactly why you're perfect," Elijah emphasized. "The fashion world is tired of perfect, identical beauties. I want to start a revolution. I want a woman that other women can look at and say, 'She's like me. She has a real story.' And that's you, Aurora." Elijah's words dismantled every barrier in Aurora's mind. He didn't just see a model, but a story, a person. He saw her struggles, her buried dreams, and her sacrifices. He saw her true value. Elijah handed her the business card. "The salary I'm offering is enough for you to quit all 3 of your current jobs. And I've also included a special clause for you in the contract. Flexible working hours so you can spend time with Lily. And I will fully fund your tuition so you can continue and complete your fashion design degree." Aurora's hands trembled as she took the business card. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The salary Elijah proposed was many times what she earned from her 3 jobs combined. More importantly, he had seen her buried dream, and he was giving her a chance to live that dream again. "You don't understand," Aurora said, her voice catching in her throat. "Why are you doing this?" Elijah looked at her with resolute eyes. "I got lost, Aurora. I built an empire without a soul. You came here and reminded me why I started. You're not just a model. You are my vision. I need time to think," Aurora said, her heart full of confusion and emotion. "Of course," Elijah replied. "Take your time. But don't let the fear of the past stop you from stepping into the future. Sometimes the best opportunities come when we least expect them." As Aurora left the office, her steps were no longer hesitant. The business card in her hand felt heavy. It wasn't just a job offer. It was an offer to change her life. It was a promise of a brighter future, not just for her, but for her daughter Lily. Elijah stood there watching Aurora's figure disappear. He knew he had found what he needed, not a model, but a real person. Her beauty, her resilience, and her unconditional love for her daughter had become his new source of inspiration. He felt an excitement he had lost long ago, a flame of passion that had just been reignited. He was ready to change the fashion world once again, and this time he would do it with Aurora. Aurora stood outside the Vance Industries building, feeling as if she had just stepped out of a dream. The last rays of the afternoon sun cast a golden glow on the skyscrapers, painting the city in warm hues. But inside her, a storm of emotions was brewing. Elijah Vance's business card lay heavy in her palm, like a precious stone sparkling with hope, yet carrying the weight of fear. She hailed a taxi home. The entire ride, Aurora couldn't stop thinking about Elijah's offer. It was more than just a job. It was an escape. An opportunity for her to no longer live in a cramped apartment with the sounds of her neighbors' quarrels, to no longer work herself to exhaustion, and most importantly, to give her daughter Lily a better life. But fear was still a powerful force. Elijah's world was too far-fetched, too glamorous. It wasn't for people like her. Everything in her life had been a struggle, and she had learned to trust in what was familiar, no matter how difficult. Was this offer a trap? Was it a cruel joke? She had been hurt by promises before. Lily's father had left her for a lie. She didn't want to be hurt again, and she couldn't bear to let Lily suffer because of it. When she got home, Aurora picked Lily up from daycare. The little girl ran to hug her, her smile bright and carefree. "Mommy, I drew a picture of you and me today." Seeing her daughter's smile, Aurora's heart softened. This little girl deserved so much more. Lily deserved a mother who didn't have to worry about paying the rent, a mother who could spend time reading books to her instead of cleaning houses. That night, after Lily was fast asleep in the small room they shared, Aurora sat alone in the kitchen under the dim light. She stared at Elijah's business card on the table. The room was quiet except for Lily's soft breathing and the neighbors' arguments echoing through the thin walls. She remembered Elijah's words, "Because you don't know how beautiful you are, that's exactly why you're perfect." Those words had ignited a spark within her, a glimmer of hope that her value wasn't just in how hard she could work. An internal battle raged on. Her mind told her this was crazy, full of risks. But her heart told her this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For the past 4 years, she had lived with fear. Fear of failure, fear of poverty. Now that fear was overshadowed by a more powerful emotion, the fear of not being able to give Lily a better future. Aurora made a decision she hadn't made in years to give herself a chance. She would take this risk not because she believed in miracles, but because she believed in her love for her daughter. Dawn came bringing with it the first light of a new day. Lily woke up to find her mother sitting at the table with an unusual smile. "Mommy, what are you smiling about?" Aurora knelt down and hugged Lily tightly. "Because today might be a very special day, my love." "How special?" Aurora kissed her daughter's forehead. "Special enough to change our lives." After dropping Lily off at daycare, Aurora drove to a small cafe. She took out her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed the numbers on Elijah's business card. She had to redial twice because her hands were shaking so much. "Elijah Vance." His voice answered warm and professional. "Hi. Hello, Mr. Vance," Aurora said, her voice shaky. "This is Aurora Hayes, the delivery person from yesterday." A moment of silence stretched. "Aurora," Elijah said, his voice filled with anticipation. "I was hoping you'd call." "I thought about your offer all night," Aurora said. She took a deep breath to summon all her courage. "And I want to accept." There was silence on the other end for a moment. This time the silence was not of anticipation, but of relief. Finally, Elijah spoke, and Aurora could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm very happy to hear that. Could you come to the office this morning? We have a lot to discuss." 2 hours later, Aurora was standing in Elijah's office again. But this time she was no longer a delivery person. She was a partner, a collaborator. She had traded her fear for hope, and she was ready to begin a new chapter in her life. Elijah had cleared his morning schedule to meet with her. Catherine had already prepared a detailed contract. As Aurora read it, her eyes widened in astonishment. The proposed salary was even higher than she had imagined. "You'll work exclusively for Vance Industries," Elijah explained. "Photo shoots, fashion shows, promotional events. And if things go well, you'll have your own product line." "My own product line," Aurora exclaimed. Elijah leaned forward, his eyes full of passion. I don't just want you to model for the company, Aurora. I want you to help shape its direction. Your knowledge of fashion design, your understanding of what real women need, that's priceless. Aurora put the contract down and looked him straight in the eyes. Why are you being so generous? This sounds too good to be true. Elijah was silent for a moment, carefully considering his answer. How could he explain that he had built his entire company on the idea of authentic beauty, but had never found a person who truly embodied it until yesterday? Because I believe you'll help me change the fashion industry, he finally said, and because everyone deserves a chance to succeed. 2 hours later, Aurora was once again standing in Elijah's office. This time she was no longer a flustered delivery person. She was a partner, a collaborator. She had traded her fear for hope, and she was ready to begin a new chapter in her life. Elijah had cleared his morning schedule to meet with her. Catherine had already prepared a detailed contract. As Aurora read it, her eyes widened in astonishment. The proposed salary was even higher than she had imagined. You will work exclusively for Vance Industries, Elijah explained. Photo shoots, fashion shows, promotional events. And if things go well, you'll have your own product line. My own product line, Aurora exclaimed. Elijah leaned forward, his eyes full of passion. I don't just want you to model for the company, Aurora. I want you to help shape its direction. Your knowledge of fashion design, your understanding of what real women need, that is invaluable. Aurora put the contract down and looked him straight in the eyes. Why are you being so generous? This sounds too good to be true. Elijah was silent for a moment, carefully considering his answer. How could he explain that he had built his entire company on the idea of authentic beauty, but had never found a person who truly embodied it until yesterday? Because I believe you will help me change the fashion industry, he finally said. And because everyone deserves a chance to succeed. What about Lily? Aurora asked, her voice filled with worry. The contract mentions flexible hours, but modeling seems to demand a lot of time. We will work around Lily's schedule, Elijah affirmed. If she gets sick, you'll stay home. If she has a school event, you will be there. Family comes first, always. Aurora felt tears welling up. For the first time in her life, someone was putting her daughter's needs before their own. Don't thank me yet, Elijah said, standing up and extending his hand. Thank me after your first photo shoot next week. Welcome to Vance Industries, Aurora. As they shook hands, Aurora felt a jolt of electricity run up her arm. Elijah's hand was warm and firm, and he held hers for a little longer than necessary. When she looked up at him, she saw something in his eyes that made her heart pound. Catherine will take you shopping this afternoon, Elijah said, his voice a little huskier. You'll need a new wardrobe for work, and we'll have a dedicated hair and makeup team for you. But what about the uniform? Aurora hesitated. There is no uniform. You will choose your own style. That's part of what makes you special, Aurora. You don't need anyone to tell you how to be beautiful. That afternoon, Aurora found herself in the most expensive store she had ever walked into. Catherine guided her through boutiques where a single dress cost more than her month's salary. At first, Aurora felt overwhelmed and out of place, but gradually she began to relax and enjoy the experience. Mr. Vance wants you to feel comfortable and confident, Catherine explained as they selected clothes. He's very particular about his models feeling good about themselves. How long has he been looking for someone like me? Aurora asked. Catherine paused as she considered a silk blouse. To be honest, I think he's been looking for you specifically, even if he didn't know it. I've never seen him react to anyone the way he did with you yesterday. When Aurora picked Lily up from daycare, She felt like she was living someone else's life. She was wearing a beautiful dress that fit her perfectly, and her hair had been styled by a professional who told her she had beautiful facial features. More importantly, she carried herself differently. Instead of weariness and resignation, she was now filled with confidence and purpose. "Mommy, you look like a princess," Lily exclaimed when she saw her mother. "Do I? Then I guess that makes you a little princess too," Aurora said, hugging her daughter tightly. "Are we rich now, Mommy?" Aurora knelt down and hugged her daughter close. "We're going to be okay, my love. More than okay." After Lily was fast asleep, Aurora called her sister Lisa. Lisa was still skeptical. "A model, Aurora? Are you sure this is legitimate? It sounds too good to be true." "I thought so too, but I looked up Vance Industries. It's completely legitimate. Elijah Vance is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the city." Elijah Vance, Aurora. The man is worth billions. Why would he be interested in someone like... Lisa stopped herself, but the words had already hurt Aurora. "Someone like me," Aurora said softly. "No, that's not what I meant. I mean, you have no experience." He said experience isn't everything. Silence on the other end. Finally, Lisa said, "Just be careful, Aurora. Men like that don't do things without expecting something in return." After hanging up, Aurora sat in her small living room thinking about her sister's warning. Was she being too naive? Was Elijah Vance too good to be true? But then she remembered the way he had looked at her, not as a man who wanted something from her, but as a man who truly saw her worth. She thought about how he had emphasized that family comes first, about how he had made sure she would have flexible hours to take care of Lily. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unfamiliar number. "I know today was a lot. Take tomorrow to rest and be with Lily. The photo shoot is Monday morning at 10 a.m. I look forward to working with you, Elijah." Aurora smiled as she replied, "Thank you for everything. I won't let you down." His answer came instantly. "You couldn't possibly disappoint me." As she got ready for bed, Aurora looked in the mirror of her tiny bathroom. Tomorrow she would wake up as a professional model for one of the biggest fashion companies in the city. It seemed impossible, but the beautiful clothes hanging in her closet proved it was real. For the first time in 4 years, Aurora Hayes went to sleep without worrying about how she was going to pay the bills. Instead, she dreamed of the future and all the possibilities it held. Monday morning, a crisp autumn air and golden sunlight filled Vance Industries' professional photography studio. Aurora stood at the doorway, overwhelmed by the sophisticated setting. Professional lighting fixtures surrounded a raised platform, and cameras and computers occupied every free surface. The room was even larger than her entire apartment. First day jitters. Aurora turned around to see Elijah walking towards her with 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He looked effortlessly handsome in black jeans and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal his muscular forearms. "Maybe a little," she admitted gratefully, taking the cup of coffee. "I've never done anything like this before." "You'll be perfect." Elijah introduced her to the photo shoot crew: Marcus Chin, the talented photographer, Sarah Williams, his assistant, and Jennifer Rodriguez, Catherine's daughter, who was in charge of hair and makeup. "The key is to just be yourself," Marcus explained. When Jennifer worked on Aurora's makeup, Elijah had requested a natural, authentic look. "We're not looking for typical model poses," he said. "So what kind of photos are we looking for?" Aurora asked. Elijah stepped closer, and Aurora caught the scent of his cologne, an expensive but not overpowering fragrance. "Photos that show real life, real emotions, real beauty." The first outfit was a simple white dress that made Aurora look elegant, yet approachable. As Marcus started to shoot, Aurora felt awkward and stiff. "Relax," Elijah said from behind the camera. "Think about Lily. Think about something that makes you truly happy." Hearing her daughter's name, Aurora's face instantly softened, a natural radiant smile blooming. The camera clicked as Marcus captured that moment. "Perfect. That's exactly what we want." Throughout the morning, Aurora gradually became more comfortable. Elijah was always there offering encouragement and suggestions. What impressed her most was the respect from everyone. There were no inappropriate comments or difficult demands, just professional collaboration aimed at creating beautiful photos. "You have a real talent for this," Jennifer said as she touched up Aurora's makeup between outfit changes. "Many models take years to learn what you do instinctively." At lunchtime, Elijah and Aurora sat in his office sharing sandwiches from the very deli where she used to work. "How does it feel so far?" he asked. "It's surreal. I woke up this morning in my tiny apartment, and now I'm having lunch with a billionaire CEO who's treating me like I have value." Elijah put his sandwich down and looked at her seriously. "You do have value, Aurora. More than you know." There was something in his voice that made her heart rate quicken. But before she could analyze it, Catherine knocked on the door. "Mr. Vance, I have the papers for Ms. Hayes's new apartment." "New apartment?" Aurora asked, confused. Elijah looked a little flustered. "I took the liberty of finding you a better place to live. It's closer to Lily's school and the neighborhood is much safer. 3 bedrooms so Lily can have her own room." Aurora stared at him. "You found me an apartment. The company will cover the cost as part of your benefits package. And before you object, this is completely legitimate. All of our exclusive models receive housing assistance." "Do all of your exclusive models get their housing personally picked out by the CEO?" Elijah gave a small sheepish smile. "You're the first exclusive model I've personally signed." That afternoon, after the photo shoot ended, Elijah drove Aurora to see the apartment. It was a charming brownstone townhouse on a tree-lined street with a small park directly across from it. The apartment itself was stunning hardwood floors, large windows, and a modern kitchen that made Aurora gasp. "The master bedroom has an ensuite bathroom," Elijah explained as he showed her around. "Lily's room is right next to it, and there's a third room you can use as an office or a studio for your fashion designs." "Elijah, this is too much." "It's not enough," he said softly. "You and Lily deserve to live in a beautiful and safe place." Standing in the empty living room with the sunlight streaming through the windows, Aurora felt overwhelmed by Elijah's generosity. No one had ever cared about her life like this. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why are you being so good to me?" Elijah was silent for a long moment, looking out at the street below. When he turned back, his expression held a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. "Because when I built this company, I had a vision to celebrate authentic beauty, real women. But somewhere along the way, I got caught up in the business and lost that vision. When you walked into my office last week, you reminded me why I started." "Is that the only reason?" Elijah stepped closer, close enough for her to see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. "No," he said honestly. "It's not the only reason." The air between them grew charged with tension. Aurora felt an intense attraction to him, a feeling that was both thrilling and terrifying. She had been deeply hurt by Lily's father, who had abandoned them both. Could she trust these feelings? Before either of them could say anything more, Aurora's phone rang. It was the daycare. "Ms. Johnson, this is Linda from Sunshine Daycare. Lily has a fever, and we need you to come pick her up right away." All thoughts of the apartment and their burgeoning connection vanished, replaced by a mother's primal instinct. "I'll be right there," Aurora said immediately, heading for the door. "I'll drive you," Elijah offered. "You don't have to." "I want to." 20 minutes later, they arrived at the daycare to find 4-year-old Lily in the principal's office with flushed cheeks and droopy eyes. When she saw her mother, she reached for her. "Mommy, I don't feel good." Aurora scooped her up, feeling the heat from her small body. "It's okay, my love. Mommy's here now." Elijah watched the scene with an uncharacteristic tenderness. He had not had much contact with children, but there was something about Lily's sweet face and Aurora's protective love that touched a deep corner of his heart. "We should take her to a doctor," he said softly. "I'll take her to the emergency room," Aurora replied mentally, calculating the cost of the trip. "My family doctor can make house calls. I'll call him." "Elijah, I can't ask you to." "You didn't ask. I'm volunteering." Dr. Patterson arrived at Aurora's old apartment within the hour. After examining Lily, he diagnosed a common cold and recommended rest and plenty of fluids. "She'll be fine in a few days," he reassured them as he packed up his bag. After the doctor left, Elijah helped Aurora get Lily settled on the sofa with her favorite blanket and turned on a cartoon for her to watch. "Thank you," Aurora said as they stood in her small kitchen, "for everything today. The apartment driving me here, calling the doctor for Lily." "You don't need to thank me for caring about you and Lily." The simple statement hit Aurora like a thunderbolt. When was the last time someone cared for them? When was the last time anyone put their needs first? "Elijah," she began, but he shook his head. "Get some rest, both of you. We'll talk tomorrow." After he left, Aurora sat on the sofa with Lily asleep in her arms, thinking about the extraordinary day she had just experienced. This morning, she was a single mom struggling with 3 jobs. Tonight, she was a professional model with a billionaire CEO who seemed to genuinely care about her life. As Lily's fever broke sometime around midnight and her breathing became more even, Aurora allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, their luck had finally changed. 2 weeks later, Aurora's life had changed in ways she couldn't have imagined. The first photo shoot had yielded stunning results, with images that captured not just her beauty, but her spirit, her strength, and her authenticity. Elijah had been right. She had a natural talent. "This is going to be our flagship campaign," Elijah said, as they reviewed the photos together in his office. "Real beauty, real women, real stories." Aurora looked at the pictures with awe. The woman in them looked so confident and radiant, it was hard to believe it was her. "They're beautiful," she said softly. "You're beautiful," Elijah corrected, and something in his voice made her look up at him. Their eyes met across the desk, and for a moment, neither of them said a word. The simmering attraction between them was now more undeniable than ever. "How is Lily feeling?" Elijah asked, breaking the romantic tension. "Much better. She went back to daycare today. She asked about you." "About me?" Aurora smiled. She wanted to know when the nice man who called the doctor was going to visit again. Elijah's heart skipped a beat. "She wants me to visit?" "Only if you want to. I know you're very busy, and I don't want to intrude." "I would love to visit if you're comfortable with it." That evening, Elijah arrived at Aurora's old apartment with a bag from a toy store. When Aurora opened the door, she found him kneeling at eye level with Lily, who was shyly hiding behind her mother's leg. "Hello, Lily," Elijah said gently. "I brought you a gift." He pulled out a beautiful doll with curly dark hair and olive skin, dressed in a tiny outfit that was an exact replica of one Aurora had worn during the photo shoot. "Mommy doll." Lily exclaimed, her shyness melting away as she reached for the doll. "I thought you'd like it," Elijah said, smiling as Lily hugged the doll tightly. Over dinner with pizza that Elijah had insisted on buying, Aurora was amazed at how he interacted with her daughter. He listened seriously to Lily's stories about school, praised her drawings, and even sat on the floor to play with the doll with her. "You're very good with kids," Aurora commented as Lily was showing Elijah how to brush the doll's hair. "I don't have much experience, but Lily makes it easy," he said. "She's very special, just like her mother," he added softly, his eyes meeting Aurora's over Lily's head. After Lily had fallen asleep, Elijah and Aurora sat on the small sofa drinking coffee and talking about everything under the sun. Elijah spoke about growing up with little money, about building his company from scratch, about the loneliness that often came with success. Aurora shared the struggles of a single mother, her dream of finishing her fashion design degree, and her fear of not being a good enough parent. "You are an amazing mother," Elijah said with conviction. "Lily is very lucky to have you. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing her, like I should be able to provide more, do more." Elijah reached out and took her hand. The simple touch sent a current through her. Love is the most important thing you can give her. Everything else is just a detail. The following weeks, Elijah became an integral part of their lives. He would stop by after work for dinner, help Lily with her homework, and spend time talking with Aurora. He never made her feel like a project he was helping out of obligation. Instead, he treated her as an equal, valued her opinions, and seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts and dreams. Moving day into the new apartment was a celebration. Elijah arrived early with a moving truck and several employees who had volunteered to help. "You didn't have to bring an army," Aurora laughed as they carried boxes up to the beautiful townhouse. "I wanted everything to be perfect for you and Lily," Elijah said, giving Lily a piggyback ride as she directed where her toys should go. The new apartment looked even more beautiful with their belongings in it. Lily ran from room to room, thrilled to have her own space for the first time. The third room that Elijah had suggested as a studio for Aurora was set up with a desk, drawing supplies, and a sewing machine he had secretly arranged to have delivered. "Elijah, this sewing machine, it's too much." "It's an investment in your future," he said simply. "I want you to finish your degree, Aurora. I want you to see all your dreams come true." That night, after Lily was asleep in her new room, Elijah and Aurora stood on the small balcony looking out at the tree-lined street. The city lights twinkled in the distance, and the air was cool and crisp. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up, and this is all a dream," Aurora said softly. "If it is, I hope we're having the same dream." Elijah turned to face her, his expression becoming serious. "Aurora, I need to tell you something." Her heart began to pound. "What is it?" "This isn't just about work anymore. My feelings for you, they're not professional." Aurora held her breath. "Elijah, I know this is complicated. You're my boss, and I don't want you to feel pressured. But I can't pretend anymore that this is just a business arrangement." "It's not just a business arrangement for me either," she whispered. Elijah stepped closer, his hand gently lifting her chin. "Are you sure?" Instead of answering with words, Aurora stood on her tiptoes and kissed him softly on the lips. Elijah wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, and they shared their first kiss under the stars. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathless. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," Elijah confessed. "Me too." They stood holding each other, both knowing that everything had just changed between them. What had started as a professional relationship had blossomed into something deeper, something real and precious. "We should take things slow," Elijah said reluctantly. "I don't want to rush you or Lily. I respect that." She's been through enough changes. No matter what happens between us, I want you to know that your job is safe. Your apartment is safe. Everything I've given you is not dependent on our personal relationship." Aurora looked up at him, her eyes welling up with tears. "How did I get so lucky to find someone like you?" "I'm the lucky one." The next morning, the first ads featuring Aurora began to appear all over the city. Her face smiled from large billboards and bus stops promoting Vance Industries' new Authentic Beauty campaign. "Mommy, that's you," Lily exclaimed as they drove past a billboard on the way to daycare. "It is my love." Aurora still couldn't believe it was real. 6 weeks ago, she was delivering food to pay the rent. Now her face was everywhere, representing one of the biggest fashion companies in the country. At the Vance Industries office, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Sales had jumped by 20%, and fashion magazines were calling to request interviews with the mysterious model who was taking the industry by storm. "I told you," Elijah said, wrapping his arms around her from behind as they looked at the billboard from his office window. "You're changing everything." "We're changing everything," Aurora corrected, leaning into his embrace. Elijah and Aurora's relationship deepened with each passing day. They spent time together with Lily building a real home. Elijah was not just a partner, but also a father. He helped Lily with her homework, read her bedtime stories, and taught her how to ride a bike. Lily had naturally accepted his presence in her life. One afternoon, while learning to ride her bike in the park, Lily fell and Elijah caught her. She hugged him tight and innocently asked, "Are you proud of me, Dad?" Elijah's heart swelled. He had found the answer to all the emptiness within him. One romantic evening, Elijah proposed to Aurora. It was not a lavish proposal, but a heartfelt, simple promise made on their apartment balcony. "I want to marry you, Aurora. I want to legally adopt Lily as my daughter. I want us to become a real family." Aurora accepted in a flood of tears, not just for love, but for a fierce belief in a happy future. After 2 months of preparation, their wedding took place in a beautiful garden of an old castle overlooking a poetic river. Elijah and Aurora wanted a cozy, private ceremony with only their closest family and friends. Lily, in a pink bridesmaid dress, was absolutely thrilled with her task. "Don't forget to scatter the petals evenly, my little princess," Aurora instructed. "I'll make your path beautiful." Lily promised, her eyes sparkling with determination. When Lily walked down the aisle, scattering white rose petals, Elijah's face broke into a radiant smile. He stood there in a sophisticated black suit, looking at the little girl like a proud father. The music of Canon in D filled the air, and Aurora appeared. She had chosen a simple yet elegant wedding dress with sparkling crystal beads on satin fabric. Her curly black hair was styled in an updo, highlighting the graceful lines of her face. Aurora walked down the aisle, alone, a symbol of her independence and strength, but also her choice to step into Elijah's life. Elijah almost held his breath when he saw her. She wasn't just beautiful. She radiated a glow, a confidence that he had seen since the day they first met. Their eyes met, and everything around them faded away. All that was left were two people walking toward each other to become one. When Aurora reached him, Elijah took her hand. "You look absolutely stunning," he whispered. "So do you," she replied. The officiant, an old friend of Elijah's, smiled and said, "Today we are not just witnessing the union of Nathan and Celeste, but the birth of a family." They had written their own vows. Elijah began, his voice filled with emotion. "Aurora, you have changed my whole world. You taught me what real beauty, real love, and the meaning of a family are. You and Lily have made me a better man. I promise to spend the rest of my life loving and protecting you both, and to be the husband and father you both deserve. When it was Aurora's turn, she couldn't hold back her tears. Elijah, you saved us, not just financially, but emotionally. You saw value in me when I no longer believed in myself. You loved my daughter like your own from the very beginning. You turned our small, broken family into a complete and beautiful one. I promise to love and support you, and to always be by your side through everything. They exchanged rings, and when the officiant declared them husband and wife, Elijah sealed it with a passionate and gentle kiss, a kiss of a promise. The wedding reception was filled with warmth and joy. The speech by Catherine, Elijah's loyal secretary, brought many to tears. I've known Elijah for 10 years, and I have never seen him as happy as he is since Aurora and Lily walked into his life. But the most touching moment was when Lily, with Catherine's help, gave her thank you speech. She stood at the microphone, her small voice clear and strong. I want to thank Dad Elijah for being my dad. He reads me stories, helps me with my homework, and makes my mom smile every day. I love you, Dad. Elijah's eyes filled with tears. He picked Lily up in his arms, spinning her around. I love you too, my little princess, more than all the stars in the sky. That night they shared their first dance to At Last by Etta James. Elijah held Aurora close, feeling the perfect harmony of two souls. You're Mrs. Vance now, he whispered in her ear. I like the sound of that. You'd better get used to it, Aurora replied. You're stuck with me now, forever and ever. Then Elijah surprised everyone by inviting Lily to join them for a family dance. The three of them swayed to the music, and the photographers quickly captured the moment that symbolized the new beginning of their family. When the party ended, Elijah and Aurora said their goodbyes to the guests preparing for their honeymoon in Italy. We did it, Aurora said as they sat in the car. We got married, we're a family. Elijah took her hand, kissing her wedding ring. Just the first day of the rest of our lives. 5 years had passed since their fairy tale wedding, and life was even more beautiful than Aurora had ever imagined. The Vance family had grown and flourished in ways that never ceased to amaze them. Aurora stood in front of a full-length mirror, adjusting her flowing blue dress, which gracefully hugged her growing baby bump. 6 months into a twin pregnancy, she radiated with the glowing beauty of a mother-to-be. This pregnancy was an event the whole family celebrated and looked forward to, a stark contrast to her solitary experience carrying Lily 10 years ago. Mommy, you look so beautiful, Lily said from the doorway. Now 10 years old, she had grown into a confident, intelligent girl who inherited her mother's grace and Elijah's business acumen. Thank you, my love, Aurora said, smiling. Are you ready for the party tonight? Tonight was the launch party for Aurora's fashion line, Authentic Beauty by Aurora Vance. After successfully completing her fashion design degree 2 years prior, she had spent the last year developing a collection that celebrated women of all shapes, sizes, and stories. Elijah was her biggest supporter, offering valuable business advice while giving her complete creative control. I'm so excited to see how everyone reacts to your clothes, Lily said, adjusting the strap of her own dress, a smaller version of her mother's collection. Are you excited to be a big sister to 2 babies? Aurora asked, stroking Lily's hair. Super excited. I've been practicing holding dolls so I know how to help you with diaper changes and feedings, Lily replied proudly. Elijah appeared at the doorway, looking as dashing as ever in a black suit. Even after 5 years of marriage, Aurora's heart still fluttered whenever she saw him. My 2 beautiful women, he said, kissing both of them on the cheek, ready to show the fashion world what real beauty looks like. The launch party was held at the Vance Industries flagship store, which had been completely renovated to showcase Aurora's collection. The space was filled with successful women from all walks of life: CEOs, teachers, nurses, artists, and stay-at-home moms. Each one had been personally invited because they embodied the authentic beauty that Aurora's brand stood for. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elijah said, addressing the crowd, "5 years ago, my wife walked into my office and changed not only my life, but the direction of this company. Tonight, we celebrate her vision come to life." Aurora took the microphone, one hand resting on her baby bump, her eyes scanning the faces of support. "When I was a struggling single mother working 3 jobs, I never dreamed I would be standing here today. But every challenge I faced, every moment of doubt, led me to this moment and to this mission to create beautiful clothes for real women who are living real lives." Her collection was a resounding success. Women of all ages and body types found pieces that made them feel confident and beautiful. Fashion magazines hailed it as a revolutionary approach to inclusive design. But the real success for Aurora was seeing the faces of women light up when they tried on her clothes and looked in the mirror. "This is everything," she said to Elijah as they watched a group of women admiring themselves in her designs. "You're changing lives again," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind his hands, resting gently on their baby bump. Later, as the party wound down and Lily had fallen asleep, Elijah and Aurora sat in their home office reviewing sales figures. "Sold out in 4 hours, Elijah said, shaking his head in amazement. "We have to ramp up production immediately." "I can't believe it," Aurora said, happy tears rolling down her cheeks. "That year I delivered food to your office. Did you ever imagine we'd be here?" "Honestly, the moment I saw you, I knew my life was about to change completely. I just didn't know how wonderful that change would be." Aurora stood up, walking to the window looking out at the city lights. Their home was now a beautiful suburban villa, with a large garden where Lily could play and their soon-to-arrive twins would run around. "Elijah, I need to tell you something." Her voice had a note of tension. Something in her tone made him look up from the papers. "What is it? Are the babies okay?" "The babies are perfectly fine, but there's something else." "What is it?" Aurora smiled, the suspense building as she prepared to share the most wonderful news. "The doctor called this afternoon with the results from yesterday's ultrasound. It's not twins, Elijah." His face went blank for a moment. "If it's not twins, what is it?" "We're having 3 babies. I'm pregnant with triplets." Elijah's face became a picture of complete shock. 3 babies. He stood up, his eyes wide with shock and awe. 2 girls and a boy. Suddenly Elijah let out a whoop of pure joy, then picked Aurora up, spinning her gently around the room. 3 more babies. Lily is going to go wild with excitement. 2 more big sisters and a little brother. Aurora said, her happy tears flowing. "A family of 6, Elijah said in utter amazement. "How did I get so lucky?" "We're the lucky ones," Aurora corrected. "All of us." They spent the rest of the evening planning for the nursery, discussing names, and marveling at the thought that their family was about to grow from 3 to 6. Elijah made lists of everything they would need, while Aurora contemplated how to balance her burgeoning business with 3 newborns. "We'll manage," Elijah reassured her when she voiced her worries. "We always do together, always together." 7 years after their wedding, the Vance family villa was filled with life and laughter. No longer a silent house, it had become a loud and happy home. The walls of the mansion bore witness to the growth of a complete family built on love, resilience, and gratitude. Lily, now 12, was lying on the rug, helping her 5-year-old twin brothers Noah and Lucas and their sister Grace with their homework. The mischievous twins, with their mother's curly black hair and their father's radiant smiles, were trying to write their names while Grace, with her big amber eyes, was drawing a picture of their family. In the kitchen, Aurora, more radiant and vibrant than ever, was preparing dinner. Her laughter echoed as Elijah walked in and hugged her from behind, kissing her on the neck. "My famous designer is home," he said, his voice full of admiration. Aurora, now a household name in the industry, never ceased to amaze him. Her authentic beauty collection had become a phenomenon, and she had been awarded Designer of the Year 2 times in a row. "And you're back, Billionaire CEO," she said, turning to hug him. "You promised you'd be home early to help me with the kids." I couldn't miss an evening in this paradise. Dinner was a cozy affair filled with laughter. Lily talked about her day at school. The twins competed to tell their mischievous stories, and Grace proudly showed her parents her drawing of a happy family. After the children were in bed, Elijah and Aurora sat in the living room, leaning against each other on the sofa, looking out at the backyard garden. Moonlight illuminated the flowers Aurora had planted, and small lights twinkled like stars on the ground. "I still can't believe how much my life has changed," Elijah said, squeezing her hand. "I used to think success was everything. I had money power, but my rooms were full of emptiness." Aurora rested her head on his shoulder. "Me too. I thought I'd have to live a hard life just to survive." "But then you walked into my office carrying my lunch," Elijah said, a warm smile on his face. "And I realized the only thing I was truly missing was you and Lily. And now these 3 little rascals." "You saved my life," Aurora said, her voice filled with emotion. "You believed in me when no one else did, and you gave me a family, a home. I've never felt so loved and complete." Elijah turned to look at her, his eyes full of love. "You saved me, Aurora. You brought me back to my true self. You taught me how to love and appreciate the simple things." Aurora began to cry, not from sadness, but from overwhelming happiness. "Sometimes I'm still afraid that one day all of this will disappear." Elijah wiped the tears from her cheeks. "I won't let that happen, my love. We've overcome every difficulty together. We built a family not with money, but with authenticity and love. And that is immortal." In the end, Aurora found happiness in simplicity and peace. The beauty that Elijah had been searching for all along was not on the runways or in sparkling billboards, but in Lily's smile, the laughter of their 3 little children, and Aurora's loving eyes. The final image of the story is a family photo. Elijah and Aurora are sitting on a swing in the garden, surrounded by their 4 children. Lily, now a graceful young lady, stands beside Elijah. The 3 younger children sit on their laps with happy, innocent smiles. It's not a staged photo, but a genuine moment, a moment of a complete, happy family. And in each of their hearts, there is an infinite love with no end, no limits. That love had changed their lives, saved them, and created a legacy of authentic beauty that would last forever.